Okay, are we all back? Welcome back then to members of the public. We are now at having had an exempt session which included a chance for the callers in to explain their concerns, for the committee to question the callers in about their concerns, and then for the committee to engage in discussion and questions and answers with the officers, covering all of the exempt matters. We now return to the open session. We also followed that with a debate in the exempt session. We now return to open session and to the debate in the open session. And so it's a chance now just for the committee members to express where they are on this, having heard all of the concerns and also the responses of the officers, what their feelings are, and eventually to reach a conclusion. They have three possible conclusions to reach. One is to take no further action. The second is to refer this back to Cabinet. And the third is to refer it to full council for a debate. So I now open up for discussion amongst the committee members. Councillor Hopkins, you are in first.
The first thing to say is I think it's quite regrettable that we're actually hearing the executive members saying, oh no, the report didn't actually say that. And that to be total lack of clarity about what the report was about. Because bluntly, it is the job of the executive and the cabinet to be clear. We might like or not like what they're proposing to do, that's another matter. But being absolutely clear about it is essential. And it's surely, whatever else happens, the executive member should at this point be saying, all right, well, there's been a bit of confusion. I'll take it back, we'll do it again, and then we'll bring it back in a week.
What didn't you understand? What didn't you understand, Councillor Hopkins?
Sorry?
What didn't you understand?
I understood everything. Apparently the executive member didn't understand what he was passing.
Can I just say I disagree, and we can take a vote on that very issue. I did not. What I heard from the executive member was not that he was confused.
Thank you. Yeah.
If we look at some of the areas for calling, clarity of aims and desired outcomes. Now, it is extremely clear that we're told that this will help to deliver certain items. Affordable housing, etc., etc., etc. And it is also very clear from the advice, which I don't need to go to refer to in detail, that the method that appears to have been chosen does not actually allow us to deliver that. So it's absolutely obvious that the aims and objectives and what is supposed to be delivered are not delivered by the method that's actually been chosen to date. Now, we've not signed any final contract, that's accepted. But the further you go down talks and the further you go down route with a particular organisation or developer, the more difficult it is to extract yourself from that, and the more likely it is that an aggrieved party who said it could have been done differently is likely to challenge. And I have not heard anything from officers or the executive member which indicates any positive reason for pursuing the path that they are currently pursuing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Gollop.
I have a slightly different interpretation on things from Gary. I have no doubt that Craig is made the decision on the basis of the information that he believed was correct and complete. I don't have any doubts about that. The debate appears to be around the fact that the specialist legal advice is in a sense premature and therefore not relevant to the decision. Whereas my take on the decision is that there are significant numbers of aspects of it where once taken, it prevents certain mitigation measures and the legal advice being taken. And consequently, I believe that the executive member may not have been fully briefed on the legal implications of the decisions that were being taken in that respect. So I am concerned that therefore the wrong decision has been arrived at by considering that a memorandum of understanding removes the need to be worried about contractual obligations, and I don't believe that view is justified. So I see that I've had no explanation that convinces me of how we move from the legal opinions that we have seen to the decision that's been taken. And for that reason, I would find that all the reasons for the call-in appear to me to be objective and valid, and I would therefore support the call-in, and I would support a referral, preferably to full council, but failing that to Cabinet, because I believe that would give an opportunity for not a change necessarily in the decision, but certainly for a correction of the information flow that is being provided and arriving at the decision.
I'd support that proposal and second it.
Did you clarify? Does anyone else wish to comment before we Afzal, would you like to speak before we actually vote on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I just welcome the relevant Cabinet members' clarity on this. It is, after all, it's a non-legally binding strategic partnership. I have had many concerns, as have, I'm sure, many people, about delivery of affordable homes, but as you have stated, that's something which can be dealt with through the local authorities planning process. And I think in terms of delivering the project there, I remember just last week at full council that the mayor was saying that I think it was after, was it 26 years that the Cattle Market building was actually demolished. So I think, so in terms of delivery, partnering up with an organisation such as LNG, and I think we cannot ignore the fact. So it's not some hedge fund. We are talking about people's pension pots as well. Right? So I think there is a responsibility for us to understand that the partner agency that we have, the money which they're using, ultimately that does benefit people who are saving up for their retirement. So I think, taking that into consideration and our needs as in terms of social stewardship, I think, so I welcome that clarity, and I feel Cabinet is the right place to actually address any concerns which we may have, or any further questions.
Thank you. Councillor Gollop, you proposed something. Would you like to propose it formally? Were there any other comments people wanted to make? Oh, Councillor Jammer, do you want to make a comment? Sorry, I didn't see a hand. Then Councillor Clark, and then I will assume that we will move to Councillor Gollop's proposal.
Thank you. Chair, what I've heard from Councillor Gollop and Councillor Gary Hopkins is that they've cast aspersions on what the executive member responsible for this area has and hasn't seen, has and hasn't been given. Now, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that legal advice was given. And what I've heard time and time again from both members on this call-in is that advice was not given, legal advice was not given. And that's the direct opposite of what we all know to be true in this room. And I just think it's really important that when the members sat on the call-in are discussing the reason, the rationale for their conclusion, that they keep within the boundaries of reality and they're truthful to the information that we've been given. Thank you.
Clarification, Chair. I have not suggested for one moment that there isn't legal advice, and I made clear I was not being critical of the executive member.
Councillor, you said that Councillor Cheney had not seen the legal advice. We can have the tape played back.
did not say he hadn't seen the legal advice. What I have said, and you and I may differ on this, but I cannot see how the decision that was taken with the legal advice that's been given. I can't help that. That's my makeup. That's my training. That's my background. I've looked at risk. I assess risk. I read the risk. I consider that decision's not acceptable. Hibbert, you can disagree with me, and that's your prerogative, and you have a different view to risk. I am not suggesting the advice hasn't been taken. We've got 50-odd pages of it. I'm not suggesting Craig hasn't seen it. I'm totally happy that he's seen it. But the fact is that an executive member is advised what to do with that information. And I am questioning that advice because it doesn't, to me, stack up with all the comments in that legal paperwork. That's the position I find myself in, and I can't be shifted from that concern, Chair.
Thank you.
Can I come back on that, Chair, very quickly? I just want to say I absolutely respect your right to have a different opinion to me. I think that's what makes this call-in so important. But I think it's wrong for you to cast aspersions, and I think you should talk from the point of view of your own opinion rather than saying what executive members have and haven't seen, because I think they've been categorical, and I think it would be unfair to cast aspersions. Thank you.
Point made. Councillor Clark. I think we moved to Councillor. I asked Councillor Clark.
I've been accused, Chair.
But I haven't asked you to
clarify.
What were you accused of?
I was accused of misrepresenting the executive member and saying that I said that he hadn't read the documentation. In actual fact, the only person who said he hadn't seen the documentation was the legal officer that we asked earlier on before you came. So he's the person who
I was in the room and you know it, and again, this is what you do. You cast aspersions and muddy the rhetoric. Please stick to the facts that we're discussing.
That is actually saying what we were actually told by the legal officer.
This is perhaps an unfruitful road to go down. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I have got some problems with this decision or non-decision, whatever it turns out to be. And they're really around two areas: proportionality. The value for money issue, Craig has said that there will be a value for money test, a process, so that helps me there. The other element of proportionality is the risk, and the risk that emerges from some of the legal advice. I think that is a concern. The other area, I suppose, is the clarity of aims and desired outcomes. The way we're proposing to do this gives no guarantee of any affordable housing. I hear what the Chair has said about the planning process, but he chairs a planning committee and he will know how weak our ammunition is within that planning committee to ensure compliance with affordable housing provisions, especially with legal in general, as somebody to my left has just said. So I'm concerned about the desired outcomes. Conference, I mean, we've got no idea whether we will end up with a conference place from this. So because of those two reasons, proportionality and clarity of aims and desired outcomes, I would like this decision reconsidered. I would prefer the full council, but a reconsidered by cabinet would be better than nothing. Thank you.
Councillor Gollop, you had a proposal.
Yep, my proposal was that this matter should be referred back to full council.
Do I have a seconder? Okay, we have a proposal and a seconder that this should be referred back to full council. Those who would like to vote in favour of that motion, please raise your hands. That's 3. Abstentions? Against? 4. Do we have another proposal? Councillor Jama?
Chair, I would like to propose that as a result of this call-in, we take no further action.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hickman. Those who would like to vote for that motion, please raise your hands. That's 4. Those against? 3. Abstentions? None. Then the motion is passed that we propose that we want to take no further action on this. Thank you for your attendance, everybody.
Chair, can I just, on 2 points of order, please?
Okay.
First, can I just thank you for your chairmanship?
Kind.
You've been extremely fair, and if I express a little surprise in that, I do mean it in the nicest possible way, but thank you.
Oh, no, take it in the nicest possible way.
Can I just thank the legal and democratic services team that have been here as well, because this has been as gruelling for them as it has been for us.
Yes.
My final point, however, is that I do, as yesterday, wish my objection to the final vote as a minority report to be registered, and I wish that to be registered with the narrative that I did not hear sufficient evidence to justify the decision that has been taken on legal grounds, and I regret the fact that the decision was not referred.
We register your vote, but we're not allowed to register narratives. You can put a statement into Cabinet with your narrative in it, but you can't include it in the minutes of this meeting.
Where in standing orders does it say that? I'm just intrigued. We'll carry on this discussion separately, but there is no process for not registering an opposing view. So all I'm asking is that it's noted.
Right. Where any member requests it immediately after the vote is taken, their vote will be so recorded in the minutes to show whether they voted for or against the motion or abstained from it. So we will record that you voted against the motion which was passed, and narrative explanations of why.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Narrative explanation can go in the minutes, but it would be better if you made a statement to Cabinet. Of order, because we concluded the meeting.
Would you mind reading out what it says, Nancy?
Where any member requests it immediately after the vote is taken, their vote will be so recorded in the minutes to show whether they voted for or against the motion or abstained from voting.
Not as part of the decision here. You can make it in other places. Thank you, everybody, especially to officers, for your hard work, your attendance today.